There is a silent war being waged inside the skull of the modern human. It is a war of attrition, fought between the part of you that wants to be better, calmer, and stronger, and the part of you that remains stubbornly anxious, distracted, and weak. We spend our days issuing commands to our own nervous systems, acting as cruel drill sergeants to our own souls, believing that if we could just tighten the grip of our will, we would finally achieve peace. Yet the more we struggle to conquer our own minds, the more chaotic they seem to become. We are like captains shouting orders into a storm, baffled that the wind refuses to listen. Now let us explore the profound wisdom found not in adding more, but in letting go. To understand why our quest for self-mastery so often leads to self-defeat, we must first interrogate the entity who claims to be the master. We must look closely at the controller, that sense of I residing somewhere behind your eyes and between your ears, the little pilot who believes he is driving the machine of the body. This I is the one who wakes up in the morning with a plan. It is the one who says, I must stop procrastinating. I must not get angry. I must be present. It views the rest of the organism, the emotions, the instincts, the wandering thoughts, as a somewhat unruly animal that must be whipped into shape. This dualistic view of human nature is the default setting of our civilization. We feel a distinct separation between the thinker and the thought, between the feeler and the feeling. We believe that the thinker is the stable, rational agent who should be able to reach down into the machinery of the mind and turn the dials. If the mind is anxious, the thinker tries to force it to be calm. If the mind is wandering, the thinker yanks it back to attention. We call this discipline or willpower or mind control. But there is a fatal flaw in this architecture. It is a flaw so simple and yet so elusive that we often miss it entirely. The question we must ask is this: who is the controller? If you observe your own experience with radical honesty, you will discover that the I who wants to control the mind is in fact just another part of the mind. The desire to be calm is itself a thought. The judgment that I am too anxious is just another vibration of anxiety. The controller is not standing outside the system. It is a phantom generated by the system. Alan Watts offered a brilliant and mischievous metaphor for this predicament. He likened the ego's attempt to control the mind to a thief who breaks into a house. When the police arrive to investigate, the thief quickly runs upstairs, puts on a police uniform, and comes down to lead the search for the burglar. He runs from room to room, shouting orders, creating a great deal of noise and commotion, pointing fingers at shadows, all to ensure that no one notices he is the one causing the disorder. This is the comedy and the tragedy of our internal life. The good self, the policeman, who tries to fix the bad self, the thief, is actually the same entity. They are both movements of the same mind. When you try to use your ego to subdue your ego, you are not creating order. You are creating a feedback loop of internal conflict. You are the thief, pretending to be the policeman to catch the thief. Is it any wonder that you never catch him? Is it any wonder that the search never ends? Consider the phenomenon of trying not to think. We have all tried it. You sit down to meditate, or perhaps you just want to sleep. You say to yourself, I am going to stop thinking now. But who is saying that? It is a thought. You are using a thought to stop thoughts. It is like trying to wash off blood with blood. The more you scrub, the messier it becomes. The silence you enforce with your will is not true silence. It is just repressed noise. It is a heavy, strained atmosphere, like a classroom of children holding their breath because the teacher is glaring at them. This illusion of the controller leads us into a hall of mirrors known as the infinite regress. It begins when we judge our own state of mind. You feel anxious. The controller says, I should not be anxious. Now you are anxious about your anxiety. The controller notices this new anxiety and says, I should not be anxious about my anxiety. Now you are worried that you are worried that you are worried. It is a spiral that goes down and down, tightening the knot of tension with every turn. We are driven mad by this because we are trying to do the impossible. We are trying to jump over our own knees. We are trying to bite our own teeth. We are trying to be the subject and the object at the same time. The ordinary world of our struggle is defined by this constant, low-level schizophrenia. We walk around feeling like two people, the one who acts and the one who watches and judges the action. We are never whole. We are always divided against ourselves. We engage in a perpetual civil war where one half of the mind tries to kill the other half, hoping that the survivor will be a better person. But you cannot fight your own mind because you are your own mind. The sword cannot cut the sword. The fire cannot burn the fire. The moment you realize that the controller is a hallucination, that there is no little man inside your head pulling the levers, but only a seamless stream of consciousness, the war begins to look absurd. We are exhausted not because the challenges of life are too great, but because we are wasting 90% of our energy fighting a ghost. We are holding up a shield to protect ourselves from our own shadow. We are tightening our muscles to hold our own bones together, as if letting go would cause us to dissolve into a puddle. This creates a state of chronic holding. Watch yourself during the day. Watch how you hold your breath when you are concentrating. Watch how you clench your jaw when you are rushing. This is the controller at work, trying to freeze reality into a shape that feels safe. We believe that if we stop controlling even for a second, we will descend into chaos. We fear that without the drill sergeant, we will become animals or lunatics or failures. But this fear is the lock on the cage. It is the very thing that prevents us from accessing our true power. We are so busy trying to drive the car with the emergency brake on that we have forgotten how to drive. The first step in our philosophical first aid is not to give you a new technique for control. It is to shatter the illusion that control is possible in the way you have imagined it. It is to expose the thief in the police uniform. It is to bring you to the point of creative despair, where you realize that you cannot fix yourself because the part of you that wants to do the fixing is the part that is broken. This sounds like bad news. It sounds like a defeat. But in the landscape of the spirit, defeat is often the gateway to victory. When you realize you cannot smooth the rough waters by hitting them with a flat iron, you stop hitting. And when you stop hitting, something magical begins to happen. The water, left to itself, begins to settle. But we are getting ahead of ourselves. For now, let us simply stand in the realization of the fraud. Let us look in the mirror and see that the master we have tried to be is a myth. The emperor has no clothes. The controller has no control. And in this terrifying vacancy, we find the first breath of freedom. We have exposed the controller as a fraud, a thief in a stolen uniform. But even if we intellectually accept this, we still face a practical dilemma. We still feel the agitation of the mind. We still suffer from the relentless chatter of worry. And so, the instinct to do something about it remains overpowering. We think, fine, the ego is an illusion, but I still need to calm down. I will force myself to relax. This brings us to the specific mechanism of our suffering, a principle known as the law of reversed effort. This law suggests that in the realm of the mind and spirit, the harder you try to achieve a result, the further you get from it. In the physical world, effort usually pays off. If you want to move a rock, you push. If the rock is heavy, you push harder. Muscle and sweat yield results. But the mind is not a rock. The mind is a fluid. It is like water. And this fundamental category error, treating the mind like a solid object to be manipulated, is the source of our deepest frustrations. Imagine a pond whose surface is disturbed by the wind. There are ripples and waves chopping up the reflection of the moon. You want the water to be still. You want to see the moon clearly. So in your impatience, you grab a flat iron and you start pressing it down on the water to smooth it out. You rush from one side of the pond to the other, frantically patting down the waves. What happens? It is obvious to anyone watching, yet invisible to the one doing the ironing. Every time you touch the water to smooth it, you create new ripples. The more violent your effort to enforce peace, the more chaotic the water becomes. You are the disturbance you are trying to quell. This is the trap of forced silence. We treat meditation or relaxation or mindfulness as a grim duty. We sit down with clenched teeth and say, "I am going to have inner peace if it kills me." We treat the wandering mind as an enemy that must be wrestled to the ground. But the mind is a feedback mechanism. When you fight it, it fights back with equal force. Consider the common torture of insomnia. You are lying in bed, exhausted. You know you need to sleep. You check the clock, 3 a.m. A thought arises. If I don't sleep now, I will be a wreck tomorrow. This thought creates a spike of adrenaline, a signal of danger. Now you are more awake. The controller steps in. I must stop thinking. I must relax. You squeeze your eyes shut. You try to force your muscles to go limp, but you cannot try to relax. Relaxation is the absence of effort. To try to relax is a contradiction in terms. It is like trying not to think of a pink elephant. The effort itself keeps the system in a state of high tension. You are awake because you are trying to sleep. You are anxious because you are trying to be calm. This is the positive feedback loop we spoke of earlier, but now we see it as a mechanism of violence. We are violent toward ourselves. We do not trust our own minds to settle. We believe that without our rigid supervision, the mind will spin out of control forever, so we hold on tight. Alan Watts often pointed out that a person who is constantly checking their own pulse is a person who will eventually make their heart skip a beat. The act of observation, when combined with anxiety and the desire to control, interferes with the natural rhythm of the organism. We are getting in our own way. We are tripping over our own feet because we are watching our feet too closely. This trap extends beyond simple anxiety into the realm of our deepest identity. We try to be good people. We try to force ourselves to love our neighbors, or to feel compassion, or to be humble. But a forced love is not love. It is a mask. A forced humility is just pride in a different costume. Look at how humble I am. The result of the law of reversed effort is a profound spiritual exhaustion. We feel like Sisyphus, pushing the boulder of our own nature up the hill, only to watch it roll back down every time our concentration slips. We blame ourselves. We think, I am just not disciplined enough. I need to try harder. So we grab a bigger flat iron. We stir the muddy water faster, hoping to clear it. But the mud does not clear by stirring. It clears by settling, and it can only settle when you leave it alone. Here lies the crux of the struggle. We are terrified of leaving it alone. We are terrified of the wu-wei, the non-forcing. We believe that if we stop rowing the boat, we will drown. We have forgotten that the boat is floating on a current that knows where it is going. The ordeal for the hero in this section is to confront the utter futility of their own willpower. It is to hit the wall. It is to realize that you cannot use the mind to fix the mind. You cannot use the will to silence the will. You are in a finger trap puzzle. The harder you pull, the tighter it gets. This moment of realization is painful. It feels like despair. If I can't control it, what hope is there? But this despair is the most valuable thing you possess. It is the collapse of the illusion. It is the flat iron falling from your hands and sinking into the pond. When you finally admit, I cannot force this, you stop adding energy to the system. You stop feeding the feedback loop. And in that moment of stopping, not because you should stop, but because you see the absurdity of continuing, the water begins to slow down. The ripples begin to widen and fade, not because you made them fade, but because it is the nature of water to return to stillness when it is not being disturbed. So here we stand. We have dropped the flat iron into the pond. We have admitted that the controller is a fraud, and that our violent efforts to force peace only create war. We are left with a terrifying question. If I do not control my mind, who or what will? If I resign from the post of general manager of the universe, won't everything fall apart? Won't I become a vegetable or a lunatic or a beast? This fear reveals the depth of our alienation. It reveals that we do not trust the very vehicle in which we travel. We treat the human organism, this miracle of biology, chemistry, and consciousness, as if it were a stupid, unruly donkey that must be whipped and steered every inch of the way. But this is the ultimate arrogance of the ego. To find the way out of the trap, we must shift our allegiance from the I, the thin layer of conscious intellect, to the it, the vast, deep intelligence of the organism. We must discover the intelligence of the body. Consider for a moment the sheer complexity of the act of reading these words. Your eyes are scanning shapes on a screen, converting photons into electrical signals, transmitting them along the optic nerve to the visual cortex, decoding symbols into meaning, cross-referencing that meaning with your memory, and producing an emotional or intellectual response. Simultaneously, your heart is pumping blood, your lungs are extracting oxygen, your stomach is digesting your last meal, your immune system is hunting down bacteria, and your glands are regulating your hormones. Now ask yourself, are you doing any of that? Do you know how to grow your own hair? Do you know how to knit a broken bone back together? Do you know the precise chemical formula required to digest a piece of cheese? Of course not. If you had to consciously manage your own heartbeat, you would be dead in 30 seconds. All of this, the vast majority of your life process, is happening of itself. It is happening without your permission, without your supervision, and without your understanding. The I that claims to be in charge is actually a tiny, bewildered passenger sitting on top of an elephant of immense intelligence. The elephant knows exactly where to go and how to walk. The passenger is just waving a map and taking credit for the journey. This is the great shift in perspective, trusting the organism. We have been conditioned to believe that nature is chaotic and that order must be imposed from the top down. We think the mind is a wild garden that will turn into a jungle of weeds unless we are constantly hacking at it with the machete of will. But this is false. Nature is not chaotic. It is orderly in a way that is far too complex for the linear intellect to grasp. When you cut your finger, you don't have to think, okay, now I need to send white blood cells to the sector 4 perimeter. Now I need to produce fibrin to clot the blood. You just wash it and put a bandage on it. You protect it and
Then you leave it alone.
you trust the body to do the knitting. You don't poke the wound every 5 minutes to see if it's healing. If you did, it would never heal. Why then do we not treat the mind with the same respect? When we feel anxiety or grief or confusion, these are the psychological equivalents of a cut or a fever. They are the organism's way of processing information, metabolizing change, or signaling a need for adjustment. But instead of trusting the process, the ego panics. I shouldn't feel this. I must fix this. It pokes the wound. It picks the scab. It floods the system with the stress hormones of self-judgment. The intelligence of the body implies that the mind too has a self-correcting mechanism. If you are sad, the sadness has a function. It slows you down. It forces you to withdraw and reflect. It is like winter. If you let the winter happen, spring follows naturally. But if you try to force the flowers to bloom in the snow, you destroy the cycle. We must learn to look at our thoughts and emotions not as my doing, but as it happening. In the West, we say, I think. It implies a subject, I, performing an action, think. But is that true? Most of the time, you don't decide to have a thought. The thought simply appears. It pops up like a hiccup. It would be more accurate to say, thinking is happening to me, just as we say, it is raining. You don't say, I am raining. You recognize that rain is a meteorological event. Well, anxiety is a psychological event. It is a weather pattern passing through the organism. When you adopt this view, the pressure evaporates. You realize that you are not responsible for policing every thought that enters your head. The brain secretes thoughts just as the pancreas secretes insulin. It's just doing its job. Some thoughts are brilliant, some are garbage. That's fine. The kidneys filter the blood. The mind filters reality. Trusting the organism means admitting that the I is not the CEO of the company. The I is more like a consultant. Its job is to observe, to set broad intentions, and then to get out of the way and let the skilled workers, the nervous system, execute the task. Think of the difference between driving a car and riding a horse. A car is a machine. It has no intelligence. If you take your hands off the wheel, it crashes. This is the model of control we try to apply to ourselves. But you are not a car. You are a horse and rider combined. A horse has its own intelligence. If you take your hands off the reins, the horse doesn't crash into a tree. It keeps walking. It avoids obstacles. It knows how to be a horse. To master the self is to realize you are riding a horse, not driving a car. You can guide it, yes. You can suggest a direction, but you do not need to micromanage every step. In fact, if you try to place the horse's hooves manually, you will trip it. This brings us to the profound relief of organic confidence. This is not the confidence of the ego, which says, I can do anything. This is the confidence of the water, which says, I can flow anywhere. It is the knowledge that you are supported by a biological wisdom that has survived for millions of years. Your ancestors survived ice ages, plagues, and predators. That survival intelligence is encoded in your DNA. It is breathing you right now. Why do you think your little conscious ego, which has only been around for a few decades and learned everything it knows from books and television, knows better than millions of years of evolution? The trial of this section is to surrender the arrogance of the intellect. It is to admit that you don't know what is best for you in every moment. Perhaps this anxiety is necessary. Perhaps this period of depression is a cocooning phase required for your next metamorphosis. Perhaps the distraction you are fighting is actually your mind trying to show you something interesting that your rigid plan missed. When we trust the organism, we move from a relationship of exploitation, using the body-mind as a tool to get what we want, to a relationship of collaboration. We listen. I am tired. Ego says, have some coffee, we have work to do. Organism says, rest. Trust says, okay, I will rest. I am angry. Ego says, smile, be nice. Organism says, defend your boundary. Trust says, I will speak my truth. This sounds simple, but it is radical. It requires us to dismantle the hierarchy we have built in our heads, where the soul or mind is the master and the body is the slave. In reality, they are a single, unified process. The body is the mind in its tangible form. The mind is the body in its subtle form. By trusting the it, we reconnect with the source of spontaneity. Watch a cat jump. It doesn't calculate the trajectory with a calculator. It doesn't worry about its form. It trusts its muscles. It acts as a whole. When we trust our organism, we regain that feline grace. We stop wobbling. We act from the center. We realize that we are not isolated fragments of consciousness fighting to survive in a bag of skin. We are the universe focusing itself at a particular point. The energy that spins the galaxies is the same energy that beats your heart. You don't have to push the river flows by itself. So the invitation here is to lean back. Stop gripping the steering wheel so hard that your knuckles turn white. The steering wheel is connected to an autopilot that is infinitely more sophisticated than you are. Your job is not to drive. Your job is to enjoy the ride, to watch the scenery, and to intervene only when there is a fork in the road. And even then, you do it with a gentle touch, a suggestion, a whisper to the horse, not a whip. We arrive now at the resolution of the paradox. We have seen the futility of the controller fighting the mind. We have seen the exhaustion of the law of reversed effort. We have learned to trust the immense, dark, silent intelligence of the organism. But how do we live this? Does trusting the organism mean we just flop down on the couch and do nothing? Does it mean we become passive driftwood in the river of life? Absolutely not. To think that letting go of control means doing nothing is to fall into the trap of dualism again. It assumes that the only two options are violent effort or dead passivity. There is a third way. The ancient Taoists called it Wu Wei. Wu Wei is often translated as non-action, which is a terrible translation because it sounds like laziness. A better translation would be not forcing or effortless action, or perhaps best of all, working with the grain. Think of the grain in a piece of wood. If you try to split the wood against the grain, it is difficult. The wood splinters and you exhaust yourself. If you split it with the grain, the wood pops apart cleanly with a single, easy blow. The wood wants to split that way. The master carpenter does not force the wood. He reads the nature of the wood and works with it. This is the secret of Wu Wei. It is the art of sailing rather than rowing. Consider the difference. The rower works against the water. He uses his own muscular effort to force the boat forward. He is isolated, sweating, and limited by his own stamina. If the wind is against him, he is finished. The sailor, however, uses the wind. He does not create the energy, he captures it. The wind is the force of nature. The sailor cannot command the wind. He cannot stop it, start it, or change its direction. But he can set his sails. If the wind is blowing towards his destination, he runs with it. If the wind is blowing against him, he does not give up. He tacks. He angles his sails to capture the energy of the opposing wind and uses the physics of the keel to drive the boat forward, zigzagging his way upwind. He uses the very force that is opposing him to reach his goal. This is the ultimate metaphor for mental mastery. The wind is your thoughts, your emotions, your circumstances. The sail is your attention and your attitude. When a storm of anxiety hits, the rower, the ego, tries to fight it. He rows harder, he screams at the wind, he gets exhausted and eventually capsizes. The sailor, the master, respects the storm. He says, "Ah, strong wind today." He reefs the sails, shrinks his profile, slows down. He steers the boat to ride the waves rather than crashing into them. He uses the high energy of the anxiety to sharpen his focus. He realizes that anxiety is just excitement without breath. So he breathes into it and turns it into adrenaline for the task at hand. He does not try to get rid of the wind, he navigates it. This is the practical application of Wu Wei. It is the judo of the mind. When a negative thought arises, "I am a failure," do not fight it. Do not argue with it. That is blocking the wind. Instead say, "Thinking is happening." Acknowledge it. Let it blow through the rigging of your mind. If you don't offer resistance, the thought passes. It is just wind. It has no substance. If the mind is racing and you cannot sleep, do not force yourself to sleep. That is rowing uphill. Instead say, "The organism is awake. There is energy here." Use the energy. Get up and read, or simply lie there and enjoy the sensation of resting the body, even if the mind is active. By aligning with the reality of being awake, the tension drops, and often, sleep comes naturally because the fight is over. This approach requires a profound shift in identity. You stop seeing yourself as a static entity that must maintain order. You start seeing yourself as a fluid process that is constantly responding to the changing weather of existence. You become a dancer. A dancer does not control the music. If the dancer tried to force the music to follow his steps, it would be a disaster. The dancer surrenders to the music. He lets the rhythm enter his body and move him. Yet he is not passive. He is actively, skillfully expressing the music. The dancer and the dance are one. When you practice Wu Wei, the separation between the controller and the mind dissolves. There is no longer a you watching the thoughts. There is just thinking. There is just feeling. There is just doing. This is the state of flow. In flow, there is no self-consciousness. The tennis player in the zone isn't thinking, I need to adjust my grip. The adjustment happens. The player is the racket, the ball, and the court. The ego, the thief in the police uniform, has left the building. This is the return to the ordinary world, but with a transformed perception. You still chop wood and carry water. You still have bills to pay and challenges to face, but the drag is gone. The friction of self-conflict is gone. You realize that self-control was never about one part of you dominating another. It was about all parts of you moving together in harmony. It was about the integration of the conscious will with the unconscious wisdom. You stop trying to be the master of your fate in the sense of a tyrant ruling a kingdom. You become the master in the sense of a surfer mastering a wave. The surfer does not command the ocean. The surfer humbles himself before the ocean, studies it, respects it, and merges with it. And in that merger, he achieves a feat of grace that looks like magic. You are the surfer. Your mind is the wave. Stop trying to flatten the wave. Ride it. Now, let us rest in the understanding that the mind is not a beast to be tamed, but a vast, intelligent ocean to be navigated. When we drop the heavy oars of our willpower and raise the sail of awareness, we find that the very winds we feared are the forces that carry us home. There is no controller, there is no controlled, there is only the sailing.